So I've listened to you, Abraham, for about 1 year and 3 months, every day, pretty much. And what I've heard you say today is
similar and yet new,
yes,
clearer, more to the point of who you are, full of nuggets that you haven't heard before, because you're new today.
so to boil it down, although I have several questions on my phone, but it seems being an optimist is the way to the vortex.
If you define the feeling of optimism as a good feeling, then that's true. The word doesn't matter so much as the feeling. And so optimism, pessimism, if you can make a distinction in how they feel, then of course the better you feel, the more on the path of who you really are you are.
Right. So it seems to me, in my experience in turn.
And let us define something. Sorry for the interruption here, but let us define something that'll help you as we're getting going here. Optimism, pessimism. Optimism, realist. Because most realists are pessimists. So really, the distinction that we think would be the easiest for you to make in making the flip to more optimism is less facing of reality and more creating of reality. Don't face reality. While there are many things in reality that you really do like, and savor them and focus upon them endlessly, but more looking forward will automatically give you a feeling of greater optimism, because your inner being is out there in your future calling you there.
So I understand that conceptually, internally in my
We're
life.
just trying to head off your pessimistic remarks that we knew were coming.
Analyst, realist, yes.
Say again?
Analyst, realist, pessimist tend to, like what you said, I agree with.
Yeah.
So in my experience, what?
My experience is reflecting my pessimism.
Yeah.
My experience is affirming the vibrational frequency I hang around in.
Yes.
My experience is making me understand for sure the law of attraction is real and responsive. My experience is showing me that I get what I think about, whether I want it or not. My experience is showing me that there are valid laws that respond to how I feel. And I am hoping that there is some movement in my feeling. That would be a beginner optimist. I'm hoping to find some movement in my pessimistic feeling. And that's good enough. That's good enough, because it is never fair for anyone to say to any of you, jump over the house. You say, I'm not prepared to do that. Well, if you were good at deliberate creation, you would just jump over the house. Well, nobody's going to jump over the house any more than you're going to jump from pessimism to optimism. That you can't make that big of a jump. No one should ever try to do that, because you're going to fail, and then you're going to want to talk to us.
Right. So since I'm here with you now, what words, and I know words don't teach, only life experience, what experience can I have? What can I do to...
We looked into this vast room of eager and willing participants, and we could feel you, and we looked for you until we found you. That's worth feeling optimistic about. Because your desire is stronger slightly than your pessimism.
Yes.
And because your desire was so strong, there was this flickering, this little flicker. In other words, sometimes we call on people and there's just like a tornado of light above them, because they have a desire and no resistance at all, and so they are noticeable. And sometimes there is this desire that's pretty steady, that's being sort of tamped down by a vibration, but there you were, persistent, you see. And so the universe is responding to who you are. We want you to take this as an indication that there is much more going for you than against you. and that you do not have to continue to argue for your limitations. And you really don't do it as much as we are all implying in this conversation.
Feeling happy. Can I possibly be in the area of the vortex and actually not be feeling happy?
No. Happiness is an interesting word, because sometimes you're happy just because something's interesting. You just feel good. You're interested. Interested is a form of happiness, don't you think? And satisfaction is a form of happiness. And enthusiasm is certainly a form of happiness. So happiness is a pretty broad word, but it is a high vibration. So feeling satisfied or interested or eager.
I need to take it a step at a time. So from what I've heard today, it would, for me, focusing on being satisfied be
And give yourself a break. Lean as far toward happy as you can. Just lean there, which means just try to make the best of things. Just try to turn it just a little bit. Try to just make the best of things. And here's the big piece. Stay off the subjects that are real downers. Because those subjects that are real downers, you want to focus on them because you think that they're the ones that deserve your attention, that you got to fix the most, but they're the ones that are doing the most to train your vibration downward.
I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And it is why I make the choice almost every day to listen to your guidance, actually.
But after a while, if you're in a pessimistic mood, our recordings will just annoy you.
No, I understand. I understand.
It's like, really, Abraham? Really? Why don't you come here and live with me?
And they very rarely do. They very rarely do. I mean, I feel mostly in alignment most of the time with that.
Yeah.
A follow-up or...
Here's something that would really like to encourage you to do. There are moments when you feel more elation than your personality is acknowledging. And your personality is sort of the way you've trained yourself to appear to the world. And usually, someone who is holding themselves back, personality-wise, in order to affect a persona, is because there's been somebody critical in your life early on. So just let that go, because that's no longer a factor.
The critical person has to be myself. Because I've been down that path thinking-wise and trying to find the key to move, and I've not found that person.
So what do you think? We don't want to stay here very long, but what do you think causes you at an early age, because it did start at an early age, to be, competitive isn't the right word, self-conscious? Where'd that self-consciousness come from? Self-conscious in the way of sort of not appreciating yourself.
Well, obvious, or at least to me, was the whole gay thing, being gay in at that time period.
And so wanting to present yourself to others in a way that they would accept, presenting yourselves to others who were never going to accept you in the way that you wanted them to. And don't you think that's interesting? Don't you think that that just has to be the hardest thing in the world? To want to be seen and to be being seen by those who can't see you. It's no wonder that you then begin building these sort of layers of defensiveness as a sort of protect. But can you see that if you then or now, and of course you can't go back and undo it then, but can you feel that if you had cared less about their response to you, how much freer that would have been? But that's a lot to ask in this world where you're moving through life with each other, because the way people perceive you and the response to you, you can't help but notice it.
But I felt like I moved past that way long time ago, and it's certainly related to the gay thing.
Absolutely. You did move past that way long ago, but you didn't move past that feeling of caring about the way you're being presented, the way you're being perceived from what you are presenting. And so we're just asking you to make one small switch of attention. We want you to present yourself to your inner being who understands you, who knows you, who adores you, who accepts you fully. And all of that will just begin to just fade away.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
One other...
Because if you really make this relationship with your inner being something that you can feel, and you really feel understood,
I really want to feel it.
Then others really do feel like the peanut gallery. This doesn't matter. Esther said to herself not too long ago, I'm going to stop trying to explain myself so that I will be understood by those who will never understand. I'm just going to let law of attraction sort it out. And if I stop trying to explain myself to those who can't understand now or maybe ever, they'll stop showing up. Because it's only my trying to get them to understand that's keeping them in my experience. Yes?
Yes. Can you speak to the internal peanut gallery? Because that's where mine is. And also,
well, it's not like that. It's simpler than that. A lot of the way you feel is in response to others. That's that one small difference in focus that we're encouraging. If you start looking to your inner being for your inner being's response to you, it's going to be so satisfying, so completing, that then you'll just automatically gravitate to that. Just start saying things to yourself. Esther talks to her inner self all the time. What do you think about this? She can get very clear impulses about what we think about that. We think it's beautiful. We think he's brilliant. We think that's perfect. We think that's lovely. We think that's expanding. We think that's changing. Your inner being always has an optimistic opinion about whatever you ask about. Always. We think there's hope there. We think that's going to get better. We think that not thinking about that would serve you. Just forge a more conscious relationship with that larger part of you. It will take care of everything.
okay. Thank you.
Enough?